In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming pattern, diving into when we expect the activity to pick back up. As we've mentioned in the previous videos, we do expect things to quiet down for a little bit, but there is sort of a time frame that we do expect that activity to potentially make a return as far as severe weather is concerned. So we're just going to dive into all of this. We can see that what we are currently left with is a jet stream that is ascending very rapidly in the eastern United States. Very warm weather up and down the east coast, but what is going to happen is we're going to see this cold front that is associated with this low up here in Canada. This is going to cause some thunderstorm activity, severe weather potentially along it as it moves eastward, but also it is going to bring that cold air with it. So let's just keep watching this and move through with this. We can see that this does bring some activity as far as thunderstorms as we reach into tonight for all of these areas in this pocket. This is certainly an area to watch. We do have a slight risk of severe weather throughout this area, so certainly a scattered risk of severe weather cannot be ruled out. We think that that could be in the area for the most part later this evening, and we do actually have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings already ongoing for South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia there. So this is already starting to pick up, but after this event is said and done, once we reach into tomorrow, what we see is that for Friday, Good Friday actually, we can see that this is going to bring a bit of a descending pattern here in the east, or a trough that is going to bring more seasonable to even below average temperatures is what we're expecting for this time frame, Friday time frame, and even Saturday here, as you can see, does feature some thunderstorms and showers around for the southeast, but still this major ridge is over the west, and we do see this kind of trough working its way in for the Ohio Valley, the northeast, and even down through the mid-Atlantic. Now, as we keep going towards Sunday, we want to watch something because there is this potential tropical activity, and I know that sounds very weird because it's early on, but it is there. Nothing major, of course, but we do need to watch for potential depression type activity. Even if it's just a wave, it could bring some stormy weather. We can see that there is still this kind of warmer pattern out west, and this is actually extending into the central United States as well, with this pretty abrupt cold air event happening in the northeast there. That's going to be Easter, by the way, and as we work our way into Monday the 10th, we can just tell everything's pretty quiet here for the United States, other than this storm moving into the northwest here of the nation. This is going to be for Northern California, portions of Oregon and Washington, even bringing snowfall to those mountainous regions and rainfall for the lower elevation and more coastal areas. We can't really rule that out either, so we're going to be watching all of these impacts. Now, as we can take a look and just keep going with this, we can see that this is going to eventually give way to more of a ridge in the east. So we can see that the jet stream is doing something like this, is what I'm seeing, but this is not going to be a major trough whatsoever. This is going to be pretty mild up here in the northeast. So this warm air is starting to push back, especially for the central states, but also somewhat here in the southeast. Now, it's right around this time frame, kind of midweek next week, that we're watching for some tropical activity to take place in the Gulf of Mexico, because what has happened, we have kind of a frontal boundary in here that has just led towards kind of some storminess being able to just stick around in this area for quite a while now. And as we watch this closely, we see that this does become a organized low and kind of hits this Gulf Coast here as a weak tropical system, but this could bring some pretty heavy rainfall and actually could move off of the east coast a little bit there at the end of the model run here. We can see that this wave is kind of over this area, bringing some storminess to Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina area there. And what our jet stream is doing here by the end of things is another major ridge here in the east, as you can see here, and some troughing happening out west. And this is what's going to reintroduce the potential for that severe weather. We're watching the 10th through the 15th for that potential return. Mostly it's closer to that 15th that I think we could see something happen. As of now, there is no major storms that take place across the middle of the country, which is what would be basically necessary for a major severe weather event to take place. So we're not really seeing it popping up here yet. The total precipitation, as you can see, there's going to be quite a bit of storminess in the northwest there, with some lows moving onshore. And not only that, we do have this kind of stationary front that's going to set up over the east. Eventually, a tropical system that kind of moves into the Gulf and then off the east coast here. Those two things are leading towards these pretty high amounts of precipitation. So we can definitely tell that this is going to bring quite a bit of activity throughout the southeastern region. Now, as we move into that total snowfall, we can see that amounts have kind of picked up out west. We do still expect quite a bit as that trough is expected to return into the west, and we'll return to something like this. This is going to reintroduce the ability for some low pressure systems to move through, bringing snowfall to these mountainous areas. So we do expect snowfall to continue for these spots through the middle point of April, which is so crazy to think about because this activity has been happening all wintertime long and now all springtime long for a majority of the fall, and now we expect that to continue. So crazy to think about there. Absolutely been a historic snow season for them out west. Now the GFS model, as we just work our way through this one's going to get us further. The first thing I want to watch for is this tropical activity that we basically see on this model is happening right around Tuesday, Wednesday, and it does something like this. It horseshoes around. It doesn't have that much time over those Gulf waters, and it kind of just moves back on shore there, as you can see, but it kind of makes a move towards the southeast again. So we see something like this take place where it wants to do this a little bit. So it does show some similarities to that European model. At this point, we do see that take place. We do get a pretty major storm system over Montana and Wyoming, Colorado area. This brings some snowfall to the Rockies, but not only that, we do see this warm front, cold front dynamic potentially taking place with this. I mean, this would bring the potential for another severe weather outbreak around the 15th if this did occur this way. I want to make sure nothing happens earlier than this, and it really doesn't. This is the first organized low that we see really take place and take hold of the United States there. And then I'm not seeing too much activity after that. Mostly we actually get into a bit of a nor'easter pattern again here in the east, where we see a lot of this moisture working its way up the east coast. Usually this type of a pattern is not that conductive for severe weather, which is really good news. Now, this does not mean that we're in the clear outside of these dates that I mentioned, because we can see the models kind of change their minds and start to show some activity when we didn't think there would be any. So you're going to want to check in daily, as we do upload every single day. But quickly, let's take a look at this temperature pattern. As you can see, we do have colder temperatures in the west, warm in the east, but this is going to shift eastward, as you can see, as we approach the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, especially here in the southeast. We see colder conditions, and even towards early next week, we're seeing that. But as we keep going, we can see things warm up in the east by the time we're reaching about the 15th, and this is exactly the type of pattern that you need for that severe weather. So this is especially why we're watching around the midpoint of the month, because when you see this taking place and then this cold kind of barreling in behind it, that is never a good look, and this is what usually causes severe weather when we have this type of a look. And certainly that's going to become possible 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and beyond time frame, it appears. As we keep going here, we can see that warm temperature sticks around until the very end of the model run, where we get into what I call a horseshoe pattern. And what this is it's something like this, where we have a bit of a horseshoe. This is kind of a reverse of what I would usually call a horseshoe pattern. We can see the cold air pouring into the west with some storms, and then also we have these lows moving up the east coast with this jet stream, and this is causing cold air to dam down the east coast, because if we have a low right here, it's causing warm air to rise up to the east of it and cold air to sink to the west of it. Because of the counterclockwise spin that we have along this low. So that is the look that we're seeing at this point. Certainly a very interesting pattern, but I think this is less of a good severe weather outlook, and I really feel like this would reduce that activity. So that is really good news at this point, and basically that is what I'm seeing according to all of these models we've taken a look at today. Now, I want to remind you guys that we do upload every single day, so we are going to be updating all of these things over the coming days, and if you subscribe today, you will get that in your subscription box. But I would also urge you guys to hit that bell icon for daily notifications when we do upload, so you never miss one. Also, be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, and leave a comment down below. I will see you guys in the next video.